The Ministry of Food had been created in December 1916, and in early 1918, Food Controller Lord Ronda introduced food rationing. Firstly, sugar in January, followed in April by meat, margarine and butter. Although bread rationing had been introduced in 1917, the British government had always been reluctant to resort to rationing, fearing that it would encourage rumours of defeat. However, the German campaign of unrestricted submarine warfare introduced in February 1917 against anyone trading with Britain meant that 1/4 of merchant ships leaving British ports was being sunk, as were ships bringing supplies from the USA and Canada. People were encouraged to grow food in their gardens, to go without meat for 1 day a week. But once the U-boat campaign succeeded in reducing the quantity of food in ports, the government was forced to resort to rationing. Ration cards were introduced in July, and everyone had to register with a butcher, a baker and a grocer. Fines and even imprisonment were punishments for those caught in breach of regulations. In the spring, the first phase of a new influenza epidemic appeared. Those who caught the virus recovered in a few days, but the virus returned in autumn in a deadlier form, and the speed with which victims were infected made it uncontrollable. Those who did not die within a few hours of showing symptoms were left to suffocate over a few days as fluid filled their lungs. Contrary to the usual strains of flu, this was more virulent among young, healthy adults, apparently thriving on their strong immunity systems. In Britain, 228,000 people died. While German bombing attacks on Britain continued, the country tried to carry on with life as normal. In June, the postal rates were increased, ending the uniform penny post, which had been introduced in 1840 with the famous penny black stamp. It now cost 1.5 pence to post a letter. In August, a new Education Act provided for the raising of the school leaving to 14. On 14th of December, a general election was held, following the Representation of the People Act, which was passed in February. This was the first in the UK in which some women were allowed to vote or stand. Under the terms of the Act, women had to be over 30 years old, meet minimum property qualifications, and be a member or wife of a member of the local government register. A further act passed on the 21st of November gave women over 21 the right to stand as MPs. At the December election, the first woman to be elected as an MP was Countess Constance Markievicz, who was elected for the constituency of Dublin, St Patrick's, as a member of Sinn Féin. She was in Holloway prison at the time of her election for taking part in anti-conscription activities. Like other elected Sinn Féin members, she refused to take her seat in the House of Commons.
In late October 1914, the Leigh Chronicle confirmed the rumours that Leigh was to be host to some German prisoners of war who were being interned in the unfinished loafed weaving shed on Etherstone Street. During the following weeks, work went ahead converting the mill into suitable accommodation for the prisoners of war, and Leigh residents waited impatiently for news of when the prisoners would arrive. In early February 1915, the paper was able to report on the arrival of the first contingent of prisoners. As news of their arrival spread, people rushed to line the streets of the town to see the 360 aliens, as the paper called them. Both the Chronicle and the Leigh Journal gave lengthy descriptions of their march from Leigh station at Bradshawgate and through the town to the camp. Life in the camp, according to the press, was warm and comfortable. There was a well-supplied hospital with up-to-date equipment. The government supplied the prisoners with a liberal allowance of food and provided a recreation ground where the prisoners could play football and skittles. Parcels arrived regularly from Germany, about 1,000 a month, containing presents and food. In early April 1915, the camp had its first escapee, who was recaptured by police in Manchester, apparently before he had been missed in the camp. The Chronicle seized on the story as a chance to criticise the military, who were, they claimed, quick to ask the press for help, but secretive in keeping information from them and the public. A more sensational event occurred soon afterwards, when a prisoner attempting to escape was shot dead. Crowds waited along the streets or in Leigh Cemetery to see his funeral. He was the first of 13 prisoners to die. In June 1962, all the bodies were exhumed and reburied in the German War Graves Cemetery at Cannock Chase. From March 1917, prisoners of war in Lancashire were offered opportunities for temporary work. Most prisoners were happy to take up the offer. Employers paid the standard rate of wages, the prisoners receiving about 1 penny per hour, which they could spend in the camp, with the remainder going to the government. The Leigh Journal announced at the end of May 1919 that the camp was to close, and a few days later it was empty. The people of Leigh had little interest in the departure of the prisoners of war.
18th of September 1916, morning. Report on incident, Lever Street, Tyldesley. Record of conversation with Mrs. Nellie Granger of Lever Street, Tyldesley. Following report from concerned neighbours. Neighbours had called the station to report that Mrs. Granger had a dog who appeared to be eating exceedingly well despite the current war rationing.
Mrs. Granger, I believe you have a dog.
Yes, Oscar, he's sleeping in the kitchen at the moment.
Mrs. Granger, has he eaten today?
Yes, just a few scraps on the table.
May I see?
I suppose so. Here, why are you asking me all these questions about my dog?
I would just like to see the dog, please.
Just a moment.
Oscar, you say? He seems to have consumed quite a good meal today. There are traces of meat on this plate, Mrs. Granger, and some red blood still here, showing up on the plate. Are you aware that this is an offence and carries a very hefty fine of £20?
I can't pay no fine. My dog's got to eat, and I love my little dog. I'm so sorry, I didn't realise things were so bad.
But you must have paid handsomely for this meat. What was the cut? I was told it was steak. It certainly doesn't look like scraps from the table to me. I'm afraid you're going to have to accompany me, Mrs. Granger, to the station. This must be recorded.
Great. The dog gets steak and all I get is bread and cheese.
I've never had such a shock in all my life. 3 weeks ago today, 6 o'clock in the morning, I heard this loud bang and I sat bolt upright in bed. Oh, Bob's been shot! I cried out. He's been shot! He's not been shot, love. Calm down, John said. You've been dreaming. He'll be home soon. That was 3 weeks ago. And it was true. He had been shot at the very same time that I'd been awakened by that awful noise. To our great relief, he had only been wounded and not killed. He was a signaller, and they'd been aiming at the cross flags on his left arm. Another 2 inches, and it would have gone through his heart. I find it ironic that I feel relief that my son has only lost a limb. That's how we're all feeling these days. This awful bloody conflict has made us feel relieved that our sons have only lost limbs. When he first joined up, he was a healthy, strong young man. He was pronounced A1 at his medical and sent straight to the front at Ypres. He's in Knapsbury Hospital now, near St Albans. And I understand he's going to be moved to Liverpool Alder Hey Hospital. It's a military hospital. I can't wait for him to come home. Before he enlisted, he was a manager at a gents outfitters in Blackpool. I don't know what he'll do now. It's 1918. I don't know how long this war will carry on. I just want my son back here with his family. He's such a noble, fine young man with a great personality. I feel so privileged to be his mother. Maybe 100 years from now, my grandchildren will see what a stupid, senseless waste of life this war will prove to be. My Bob will marry eventually and have a child, of course. And she will write about how I felt in the war to end all wars.
On 1st April, the Royal Flying Corps and Royal Naval Flying Service merged to become the Royal Air Force. A Women's Royal Air Force was also formed to provide mechanics and fitters. The work of the RFC had expanded during the war, from reconnaissance work in 1914 to air fights with enemy pilots, the strafing of enemy lines, and bombing German airfields and industrial targets. 3 weeks later, Imperial German Army Air Service pilot Manfred von Richthofen was killed when he was shot down, though it's uncertain whether this was by a British pilot or by Australian ground troops. Earning his nickname because of the colour of his plane and believed to have shot down 80 Allied aircraft, the 25-year-old Red Baron was buried with full military honours by Royal Air Force personnel. In November 1917, the German High Command had met to decide on its war strategy for the forthcoming year. General Ludendorff was clear about what the strategy would be. No matter at what cost in German lives, he wanted to hit the Allies with a spring offensive before the American army had a chance to arrive in force. The first attack, aimed at taking control of Amiens and Arras, came on March 21st, when British forces based along the Somme were attacked. The Germans started the battle with intensive artillery bombardments, followed by an attack by newly trained stormtroopers. They soon regained all the ground they had lost in the Battle of the Somme 2 years earlier. But the British Army was able to prevent them taking Arras and Amiens. A second attack was launched on 9th April against the British Army based on Ypres. Although the German army was gaining ground, they had to call off the attack after 3 weeks, when Australian and French reinforcements arrived. The German casualties numbered 330,000, and they did not have sufficient numbers of reserve troops to continue the battle. General Ludendorff's hopes of separating the British and French armies had failed. A third German offensive against the Allies began. The aim this time was to contain the Allied forces based in central France to prevent them sending reinforcements to British troops based further north. The attack along the Aisne River exposed weaknesses in French defences, and their Sixth Army was defeated. Encouraged by this unexpected success, General Ludendorff decided to advance on Paris, hoping to force the Allies into a war-deciding battle. In 2 days, his army was within 50 miles of Paris, but they were now too exhausted to continue, and the Allies and the Americans rushed reinforcements to the area. In September, American forces, supported by a large number of Allied aircraft, took control of the southern part of the Western Front. By now, the Allies were taking thousands of German prisoners of war. By the end of September, Germany was facing the likelihood of defeat. There was no manpower left to provide recruits for the army. Soldiers were suffering from illness, hunger, and exhaustion, and many were deserting. Accepting the recommendation of his generals, the Kaiser agreed to request an armistice. Germany now stood alone, its allies having been defeated or negotiated peace terms. On the 9th of November, the German imperial government collapsed, and Germany was declared a republic. 2 days later, on 11th November, an armistice was signed at 5:10 a.m. and agreed to become effective at 11 a.m. Fighting continued until the last second, producing another 2,000 casualties.
My dearest Tommy, I hope my letter reaches you, as I am becoming increasingly concerned that I have not heard from you for some time. I realise that it's not always easy for you to write letters, but I pray to God every day that you're safe. Your job as a runner is so dangerous, and I fear for your life constantly. Life here at home is getting more difficult. Who would have thought that we would have food rationing? All our allotments are vital now. There are many reports that some people are hoarding food, and I believe that the police have raided some homes and people are being taken to court. It's such a change in life now. Women are being made police constables because we are so short of men. How our world has changed in such a short space of time. Life at the hospital doesn't get any easier. I have been promoted to a staff nurse, of which I'm very proud. Sadly, the number of patients isn't decreasing, but those who do leave us are given good support in the special nursing homes. I fear that many of them will need support for a long time. As I am writing this, I keep glancing at our wedding photo in front of the lovely frame that Mother gave us. I am constantly reminded of the perfect day, such happiness. I am also remembering the rare few days of leave that you had, and how wonderful it was to hold you in my arms. You look so handsome in your uniform. I'm so very proud of you. You didn't say much about your time in France and Belgium, but I know how much you feared going back to the front. Be brave, my darling. God has protected you so far, and He will continue to do so. Surely this war cannot go on for much longer. It is more than any of us can bear. No doubt you and all the men are longing to be home. I pray that you will be soon. I love you with all my heart, my dearest. You are a very special man. I knew from the moment that I saw you I wanted to marry you. Being your wife has pleased me beyond belief, and I know that our futures together will be perfect. I am looking forward to seeing you soon. Take care, my love. May God continue to look over you and protect you. With my deepest love, Grace.
You may have heard where our Jim has been killed in action. A few days later, they got our Addy. The CEO wanted to give me compassionate leave, but I couldn't go. I couldn't face me now. I would have seen Grace again. She doesn't mention Jim or Addy. I think she's scared for me. If I had gone home, I wouldn't have had to come back to this hellhole. They wouldn't have let me. But I felt I had to finish the war for the sake of our Jim and Anniv. But now, look at this letter I've got in my hand. It's the message that the war's over. Best news I've ever delivered. I hope my mum knows about it. She'll be dancing in the kitchen. Even though they'll be dancing in the streets, I can just imagine it. No need to duck and dive anymore. I can run right across the field, jump straight over that gate. Ah! Oh God! Shot! Got me in the back. Sorry, Mum. Ruined your birthday. First of November, 1918. My darling Grace, my dearest, if you are reading this letter, then I will not be coming home. This is the hardest letter I've ever had to write, and I pray that you will never have to read it, but in this uncertain future we have to be prepared for the worst. Grace, it is the thought of you and receiving your letters with news from home that has sustained me through these last 4 years of pure hell. I could not have kept my spirits up and my mind intact without knowing that you were my wife, my one true love, and that I would have a future with you by my side. We have spent so little time together, but every minute with you has been so precious. I have carried the memories of our wedding day in my heart every day. You looked so beautiful and I was beside myself with happiness. Grace, not only are you beautiful to look at, you are beautiful on the inside. You are the kindest, most generous person I know on God's earth. It is very hard to know that I can no longer be with you, and it pains me to know that you will be devastated and heartbroken to hear the news of my death. My darling, be brave, be strong. Do not grieve me forever. Do not be lonely. I will always be in your heart, and I will watch over you forever with God's help. You will have received this letter with the Bible that you gave me on the day I left England. I have tried to read from it every day as I have felt so much closer to you. My heart is breaking now at the thought of you reading this. Take care, my dearest darling Grace. May God protect you for the rest of your life. Thank you for making me the happiest and proudest of men. I love you, always and forever. Goodbye, my love. Tommy.
Where are you, Mother? I'm home.
Norman, is that you?
Yes.
Oh, you look ever so skinny. And if you don't mind me saying, you've pulled a bit.
I've not half missed you. It's been terrible with you. I've got the papers.
Oh, you blooming well stink. And shake that beard off of her, it's full of lice.
Hey, listen, I made you a present. Made you trenches, Billy Butterworth showed me how to do it. You can put it on mantelpiece if you like, and at night time it glows in dark.
What is it, Norman?
Is it not obvious? It's a bobbin holder. All your spare bobbins of cotton can fit inside, in the compartments, and in the middle bit there's even room for your darning needles. You'll never lose them again.
A bobbin holder?
Yeah.
That's very exciting, I must say.
It's made from a shell, Mother. A real shell, real ammunition. It took me ages to make that for you.
4 years, that's how long, because that's how long you've been gone.
I've been fighting a war. What can I say? And I have won.
Yes, and I've been fighting a war while you've been away.
What was that?
I have become a suffragette. I am on the side of Emmeline Pankhurst. Rise up, women!
Oh, Mother, you do look strong.
Yes, Norman, because that's what war does to you. It strengthens the soul.
I feel quite tired myself. I'm wore out now. I don't feel fit for out.
Backbone, Norman. That's what you're in need of, a bit of backbone. You've had it too easy. Lying in the trenches, making bobbin holders.
It weren't exactly comfy, Mother, lying on top of one another in all that sludge and slime, and they even tried poisoning me with gas. It were awful. I'm so happy to be home. Just you and me. Again, like old times.
Yes, Norman, but things have changed since you've went away.
Well, it's bound to change a little bit. But I'll soon get back into the swing of things. No problem, don't worry.
Well, you'll have to sleep in the scullery for the time being.
There's rats in the scullery. Why would I want to sleep there? I might as well be back in trenches.
Because, Norman, I have had to take in a lodger. You don't know how hard it's been for me. No money, taking all the washing in. I can only do so much. So Geraldine's in your room for the time being?
Geraldine?
Yes, Geraldine. And I can see that look in your eye. Well, she's not interested. She's a policewoman.
I was looking forward to a bath in front of the fire and curling up in a nice soft bed and my favourite grey blanket.
There'll be no bathing in front of the fire, you lazy scoundrel. When Geraldine comes in and sees you, have you no shame?
She could scrub me back, it's not half itchy.
Oh, what has this war done to you? You've got the morals of an alley cat.
I'll be quick. Go on, Mother, just let me have a bath.
Get in the scullery. Take that uniform off, have a good wash with that carbolic soap, and shave that beard off because it's crawling with ice.
It's freezing in there, Mother. I was looking forward to a few old comforts.
Oh, softy baby Norman, always to say, oh, that water's cold, Mother. Oh, please don't put me in there, I'll drown. You never change, from the water, too scared to swim.
I remember what you did to me, and I was only 4, Mother. You tied a rope around my waist and threw me in the canal and shouted, "Swim, Norman, swim!"
You learned though, didn't you? You've got me to thank for that. Me!
But it was thanks to the likes of Jacob Riley that I got out alive because you let go of the rope, didn't you? You didn't want me then and you don't want me now. Well, I'm not still, I'm not wanted.
Where will you go? Who would have you in that state? Let me see now. Could it be Doreen by any chance? She showed me the love letters you've written to her. I know a thing or two. Go on, go to Doreen, see if I can.
I will, you watch. She'd let me have a bath in front of the fire. She'd take care of it.
That's not all she'd do though, is it, Norman? She'll steal your virginity while she's at it. Mark my words, you've been like a lamb to the slaughter.
She wouldn't do that, Doreen. She's very nice and very pretty.
Look at you, dribbling over a woman. You're no more than an animal.
I'm just saying, that's all.
Get in the scullery, you stinking place out. Go on.
I'll have a wash then, but maybe a nice cup of tea. And will you make me one of your delicious buttercream cakes on Sunday?
Why should I be making cakes? Wasting all my butter and eggs on the likes of you.
Because I am home. I'm home. Together. We're together forever. Me and you.
And Geraldine.